audio recording. With that, we can get rolling.
Okay.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast studios. And today I have somebody from the Detroit is Different family. T Bob, comedian T Bob, that does so many different things. And actually, she's helped Detroit is Different before, but helped a lot of culture in Detroit. So it's an industry going on right now that a lot of people definitely are tapping into that creativity and culture that we love to highlight here in Detroit, and it's created a whole community. So those three C's make up Detroit is Different: creativity, culture, community, all the time. Right. And this industry is film. So last year we did a live stream of Josh Adams' podcast with also the Retired Hood Rap podcast from T-Bar. It was a he say, she say style discussion at the House of Comedy. And it was anchored from one of the producers and one of the writers of many of the films that you've grown to love. Renika McQueen, how are you today?
I am good. I am good. Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right. So that is definitely something that you put some sauce in, and you were not rattled by Josh's responses or T-Bar's responses. You
Not at
stayed
all.
straight lace the whole time.
Yeah.
It was a cool look, and that connection and having those relationships with comedians, actors, actresses, singers, dancers is grown as you've poured into film.
hmm
So first, let's talk a little bit about just your love for film and how did that start, and then we're gonna get into our classic Detroit is Different. Your love for film and how did that start?
Okay, so my love for film came about when I did my first movie. I wrote a book called Deceitful Passions in like 2007. Self-published it, had it in Barnes and Nobles, different things like that. Put it down, got busy with life, work. I decided to attend a movie premiere here in the city of Detroit that another director was having. Went to that and I was like, you know what? I want to do this.
Hmm.
And so I reached out to them. I said, look, I don't have a script, but I do have a book I can turn into a script. Can you help me? I want to get this movie made. And they was like, yeah. And so once I did that first movie, which again is Deceitful Passions, that's when I discovered my love for film. And I've just been doing it ever since.
So writing in the story always connected to you as the written word, and the book was the first step into this journey,
hmm
which is deep and a deep connection, which definitely goes into the whole concept of deceitful passions. And many people have since watched that film,
Yes.
trip out, and definitely connect to it. And then it's always like book or movie, book or movie.
hmm
What connects in the book that doesn't connect in the movie, and vice versa for you?
So, you know what? I don't know. I think for me, it all just connected and went very well together. The only thing that I would say that did not connect, there were certain scenes that I did in the book that I didn't put in the movie,
Hmm.
because I felt like it was just too much for
Hmm.
film, and I didn't think people would receive it well. But other than that, everything just went so well together.
Okay, so now classic Detroit is Different. You and your peoples,
hmm
the roots. Uh, Whereabouts? You first generation, second generation Detroiter? How long you been in it?
Listen, born and raised in Detroit my whole
Okay,
life.
so that's you, your parents.
Yeah.
Were your parents born and raised here?
Yes.
Okay, grandparents.
You know what? Yeah, no. I think my grandmother may have been born here, but I know like I got a lot of family where we started off down south.
Where at?
I want to say like Alabama, places like that.
But you don't know specific.
No, I don't.
Okay, because just a lot of the roots always start here. So
Yeah.
you would say your grandmother was born here. So at
Mhm.
minimum third generation, but maybe not fourth generation.
Yeah.
And Alabama is definitely one of those places that has a lot of people from the city here. Alabama and Georgia, in a lot of these interviews, I
Mhm.
found are where most black folks come from
Yeah.
in the city of Detroit. And it connects in a lot of the culture between both. So as we're thinking of that Alabama Georgia connection, I want to ask this: the
Mhm.
roots of the city, grandparents. Where did they grow up?
On a street called I was little. The last street that I remember my grandmother living living on like by herself before she moved in with us. Dickerson,
Okay.
Mac, over in that area.
So East Side.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. So East Side, Dickerson, we Mac area. We
yeah,
definitely are familiar with that. We have so many other people that in these Detroit is different. You know, you're gonna definitely touch the East Side.
yeah.
And I'm guessing. So does that put your people? Your mom? Did she? Were you all? Did
East
she grow up
side,
on the East Side too?
east side.
Okay.
Yeah, east sider till I moved west in 2009.
Okay. So childhood. Where did you
hmm
guys grow up? East. Where
I
at?
grew up on the east side on Buckingham between Linville and Essex. Yeah, and
Mm.
before then, much smaller. I lived on streets like Evanston, things like
Mm.
that. Yeah.
Okay. When I think of that community, I think a little bit of shout out to I'll be interviewing her soon. I think of Tony McElwain, like Ravendale, and I think of like that pocket, and that is actually one of the few parts of the East Side where people don't say it's by the airport per
Mm.
se. It's like this much for people that are watching. It's a city airport in the city of Detroit,
Yeah, on
and
Connor.
if you meet a person from Detroit's east side, most of them will always say it's by the airport, as if it's not four sides to it.
Mhm.
So it's like you could be like 5 miles away. You could be almost like right next to downtown, or you could be like deep, like
Mhm.
7 Mile and Van Dyke almost.
Mm.
So this connection, growing up, you said that's the community. Mom and dad, your dad, mom, all of it's east. What schools?
I have no clue. Now, I do know that my mother went to Southeastern. I do
Okay.
know that. I have no clue what's going.
What your pops went to?
Yeah,
Okay.
no.
So a juggalier for your mom. Okay. And that makes sense on the Mac and Dickerson perspective.
Mhm.
Okay. And then that's where that's at. Growing up, that's your neighborhood. You gave kind of a
Mhm.
perspective. As far as school, brothers and sisters.
So I went to Stellwagen Elementary. I attended Dorothy Fisher Middle School. Then I went to Dominican for like the first 2 years of high
Mhm.
school, and then I left there and I went to Osborne because I thought I wanted to go to a public school and get out of the all girls school. But
Mm,
when I got to public school, it was like a shell shock. I was like, no, I want to go back to Dominican. It was
okay.
too much.
So what was your experience like in Dominican? Like, what was that like for you?
So it was really clean, really quiet, really
Mhm.
private. It was a great school. And sometimes when you're young, you just don't appreciate stuff. I see my other cousins going to public schools. They're going to Finney, they're going to
Mhm.
Denby and all these places. And they are having a great time. And
From
I'm
the
like,
outside looking in.
yes. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I want to go to Finney, because I was right there in Buckingham, right by Cashew and all of that. So I'm like, I can go to Finney. And then my husband at the time, well, he's my husband now, but at the time we were just like boyfriend and girlfriend, I guess.
Mhm.
He was going to Finney, so I really wanted to go there and be with him. My mom was like, no way. So
Mm. Okay, okay. So he I guess he hopped the hurdle of the average Highlander. It's like the boys from Finney is. Mm-mm. Shout out to all my dudes from Finney. I remember
yeah.
Finney, Denby. That's like deep east almost. So
hmm
like you were like just in that pocket, and then you
Yeah.
mentioned Osborne is where you chose.
I didn't choose it. That's what my mother chose for me because she was like, you know what? You're not going to Finney with all your cousins, your friends, the
Mm,
whole neighborhood. She thought that I would probably get in some type of trouble.
mhm.
So she sent me over to Osborne.
Okay. What was that like? Making that adjustment over to Osborne, and then I
Mhm.
assume also just from being in an all girls school
Yeah.
to now it's, I guess you say, co-ed.
Yeah.
you know.
You know what? It was just different. It was a lot. It was kind of too much. I should have stayed.
Mm,
I should have stayed where I was at. And, it wasn't clean. It just was not what I was used to going to the private school. You
mm.
know what I'm saying? So, like
And
I
I
said, I wanted to go
assume.
back. My mom was like, nope, you know how much money I'm saving on that tuition? You're going to
uh,
stay right where you at, where it's free.
okay.
So, I toughed it out,
Okay.
graduated, and that was that.
And then also just the size of the school, I'm assuming,
Yes,
and the
much bigger.
classes.
Yes.
The people, the classrooms, the size.
Yes, definitely
Um,
much bigger classes, more students, things like
mhm,
that. Boys playing too much, irritating you.
mhm.
So, yeah.
Okay. And in this journey after high school,
hmm
where you at?
So I went to WC3 for a minute, then I went to Oakland County Community College. I took up a little of everything from teaching to journalism to I just never really settled. And then I just was kind of over it.
Mm. Okay, so there in school, it was like nothing really stuck.
Yeah.
When you were in high school and growing
Mhm.
up, were you connected to clearly books and
Yeah, I
stories?
love to read. I love to write. Wrote poetry. I wrote raps. I mean, anything. I was writing it. I kept a journal, a notebook. That was like my thing my whole life. I just loved to write.
Who were So first, let's kind of get into like the books
hmm
and what you were reading. What
Okay.
were the books that you were reading when you were like
So I was
coming up?
reading like Sweet Valley High. It was about some twins in high school. Like when I was younger, my favorite book was Where the Sidewalk Ends. I loved all of the Cat in the Hat books. Like I just was reading whatever somebody put in my hand, I read it. And then as I got older, and I started working for corrections. I was reading a lot there on midnights to like help me stay woke. And at
Mhm.
that time, I was reading a lot of the hood books that were coming out, The Coldest Winter Ever, True to the Game, things
Mhm.
like that. And so, yeah.
And and also in film.
hmm
So like when you're reading, what was it about like movies and like what movie stood out as you were younger coming up?
So coming up, I was a big scary movie person.
Mm.
Thrillers, scary movies, drama, stuff like that. And those are still like some of the movies that I love to this day. Anything that scares me, which is crazy,
What
but
what do you think about horror that kind of drew you in?
mhm,
Um, because I like horror too.
mhm,
For me, I think that as I explained, because it's almost like two levels of people. It's like people
mhm.
that's like I don't want to watch that at all, but it's
Yeah,
people that love it.
definitely a lot of people.
Uh, and for me, when I explain it to the people that's like I don't want to watch it at all, it's like because I like the technical. It's it's playing with your anticipation. It's like the lighting, even when you
Yeah.
try to like close your eyes,
Yes. And
and
then,
then the
then the music is
music
playing.
builds up,
Yeah.
and it'll be certain things where you only see like the lighting will have it where okay, we're gonna play mental games with you, the
Mhm.
director and the cinematographer, where you're trying to look away, but your eyes will be drawn to like
Mhm.
where this entity will appear out of nowhere or something like that. And some of the scariest things I actually think are like the movie Jaws, for instance.
Mhm.
Like here's
Yeah.
my movie
I
nerd
enjoyed
stuff.
Jaws. I enjoyed it.
And the cool thing about it is like the shark the mechanical shark they had, it broke
Mhm.
the first day of shooting.
Mhm.
And that's why you don't see it. So you hear
Mhm.
so much of the actors talk about how scary this is and what it
Mhm.
does because they basically have to create a movie about a shark without a shark because it broke the first day.
Which is so dope. You know what
And
I'm saying?
that's
That
why I
they were
think
able to
it's
even do that
yes.
and still have
Hmm.
people watch the movie and enjoy
Yeah.
it.
And you
So,
create in your own mind, and that's like a
mhm.
book because
Yeah.
you use your imagination to create like, oh, this shark must be like
Yeah.
terrifying. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying?
Yep. You're building up your own imagination. So you probably scared more than what you know what I'm
Would have
saying?
been whereas if you'd have saw the mechanical shark, you'd have been like, oh man,
Yep.
we've seen a lot of scary movies like that where
Mhm.
leading up to it, you're like, oh, and then you see it and it's like,
Yeah.
ah.
Yeah.
Hence, I think horror can do that for me at least. What
Mhm.
was it about horror for you that like drew you in early or keeps you there?
You know what? I don't know. I've just always been a fan. Freddy Krueger was like my favorite. Michael Myers, Halloween, Jason, and then I'm a big fan of Halloween.
Hmm.
So it just all I just loved it since I was a little girl. And I don't think anything specifically, but I just think maybe the frights of it all, you know what I'm saying? The anticipation, like you said, the buildup of not knowing what's gonna happen, but you still scared to death because of the music that they're playing and stuff
Yeah.
like that, or somebody screaming in the background, but you ain't seen nothing yet, and you're trying to figure out like what is about to happen, and it's so intense. So I think maybe that for me always have stood out for me.
Okay. All right. So that's where kind of the film and then the story kind of
Hmm.
combines, and you're a kid. Those are like so polar opposites. So it's like you're listening, you're like Sweet Valley High, and then you're going to watch I Know What You Did Last Summer,
Yes,
you know.
yeah, I love that too. That was one
Okay.
of my favorites too.
All right, and then during this connection, your boyfriend becomes your husband. So
Ye-
I assume even that we definitely want to explore a little bit of that because that's
Mhm.
so rare to for those connections because everybody always goes up to whoever's in a high school relationship saying you gonna forget about them next month.
Yeah, listen, yeah, I just told my son that the other day.
Uh huh.
So, and then you know what my friend told me? She was like, "You can't tell him that because you're still with your husband." Yeah, and I was
So it
like,
was you that was
"Dang,
saying
yeah,
that of
yeah." I'm
all
like,
people.
yeah. I'm like, you're gonna move on. This won't be your first girlfriend.
And
We
he
were
was
just
like, "What
talking about
about you and Dad?"
relationships. Yeah, you know what? He didn't say that. He just kind of looked, and
Mhm,
then I was telling my girlfriend, and she said it to me, like, "Friend, you can't say that. You still with your husband." I'm like,
mhm.
"Dang, you know what? You right." So,
So, so in that, because
mm-hmm,
I know everybody definitely probably has these questions, I
mm-hmm,
assume, and I'm gonna ask it too.
yeah,
What was the flow? Like, how did you? What was the approach like initially
mm-hmm.
that connected you that had him stand out to keep you here for through growing up, through marriage? Because now it's like you all have gone through so many life's journeys and
Yeah.
grown together.
Mm-hmm. Well, so when I met my husband, oh God, we were really young. My auntie lived on a street called Somerset, which was off of East Warren. Him
Mhm,
and his family moved over there. So we kind of started off playing together as
mhm,
neighbors. My aunt's house is where I spent a lot of summers, holidays, Christmases, and things like that. It was kind of like a big mama house.
mhm.
All the kids went there. So we started just growing up playing together, and then my cousin one day was like, "He like you," and I was like, "I don't like him. I
Oh
couldn't
man.
stand him. I couldn't
Oh man.
stand him." And I don't know, he kind of grew on me, and then yeah, he just never grew off.
Wow. So he was like, "What you doing tomorrow?"
No, you know what? And two, that was actually like the first boy that my parents let me date. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? And let him come over and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I guess that's what we have so much history. Like I've seen him go through a lot. He's seen me go through a lot. We've gone through a lot together. So,
Mhm. And then grow up too.
hmm
And you mentioned that aunt figure being almost like the term I like to use is matriarch, even though sometimes people be
hmm
like, "What did that mean?" And it's like just a key figure for the family. Was
yeah.
your aunt? Is that your older? Was she the oldest or the youngest, or you don't even know?
So no, it was my grandmother's sister, and my at the
Ah.
time my great grandmother was still alive, which was their
Mm,
mother, and so she lived there as well. So we always went over there to see my great grandmother, and then it was her daughter's house, which was my aunt, and my aunt right now I think she's like 80 years old or
mm,
something like that. But yeah, she was the one that kind of just kept the family together because her house was always open. She was even the type if you lived down the street and you had a kid and they were hungry and you don't have no food, you can come down to her house. She's gonna feed you. She's gonna find something. If you didn't have a place to stay, you could sleep on her floor. She's just always been that type of person.
what did she do?
She was a nurse.
Mm.
Yeah, she worked at the hospital until she retired.
Okay. And with that same energy and flow, you also I guess that makes sense in caretaking too, as our family, you all will probably get here with family and you always wonder who makes the decision of where mama stay
Mm-hmm.
or where daddy stay or who's
Yeah.
gonna keep care. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and let me just for everybody watching this, whoever has a lot of medical experience
Mm-hmm.
may even come before that person with a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So being that your family kind of even kept pouring in,
Mm-hmm.
did you have like a lot of uncles too? Were there a lot of uncles and other aunties and
So
things like that around?
from my grandmother, my mother's mother, I have one aunt one
Mm,
uncle, and then there
okay.
was my mom. So she just had the well, you know what? She had another baby. I was not born yet, so I would have
Mm,
had an additional uncle, but he died
passed
from
on.
when he was a baby in his
Mm,
sleep.
mm.
Sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS or something like
Yeah,
that.
SIDS, yeah.
Yeah, right in his sleep on his birthday.
Mm,
So I never got a chance to meet him, but I've heard a lot about him from my mom. She used to talk about him, tell me stuff when I wanted to know.
mm.
Yeah.
And so, and then I'm guessing, but for other than that, because that was your great grandmother, were there a lot of aunts and uncles that, more people that
Yes,
really
you know
did?
what? My so far as aunts and uncles that were like my mother's siblings, it was just those two. But like from my grandmother,
Hmm.
I think there was about 9 of them
Mm.
total. So I had aunts and uncles and stuff like that. Yeah,
And a
we were
lot
a
of
big family.
cousins.
Yeah, and a lot of cousins
Okay.
at that time coming up. We were a nice sized family.
And I frame that also because kudos to your now husband because
Hmm.
it's more intimidating approaching her when
Hmm.
you got like a family full of family on that porch. You know what I'm saying? Like you
Listen,
have to
no,
like,
he wasn't intimidated at all because they were so close. They loved him, like they loved him
okay,
and his family. His
okay.
mom would come over to my aunt's house. They
Hmm.
would play cards. They would cook.
So he
They
was already
he
like
was
in the
already in.
family.
Yeah, he was already in.
It was like it was like we like him more than we like you.
Yeah. Pretty much, pretty much. Yeah.
So that
Hmm.
that's definitely cool.
And
That's
they still do like,
mhm.
he's never going
Okay.
anywhere.
As this is something my mom always say, like families get married. I
Mhm.
mean, people get married, but also when people get married, families are marrying too. So
Mhm.
that connection automatically was a connection and kinship that
Mhm.
existed, and then just having that understanding, I can see what that value is. But I'm speaking and projecting into this. But what role has you know your families being so connected played in keeping you all connected?
Um, on my end, I would say my cousins, they were always very encouraging and still like even when we were younger, if we broke up or whatever we were going through, their whole take on it was like, well, that's still our cousin. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? They still loved him
yeah.
regardless. On his side of the family, maybe not so much, but hey, it is what it is.
It would be, yeah. Because I assume it could be like it's like it's two sides to every coin too.
Yeah.
Because now everybody's kind of in the space too,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
so much within that.
Yeah.
So you're so back to like just that journey from school. You're in school, nothing's really sticking. You
Yeah.
just like, okay, let me just get into the job market, I'm guessing, and let
Mhm.
me just jump into there.
Yeah.
So what you jump into?
Corrections.
How did you choose to jump into corrections, especially being a woman jumping into corrections, and not from like what the streets say as much as just more so. Okay, I went to Northwestern High School, so a lot of like I often tell people, it's like, man, it's a lot of just energy. You dealing with a lot of testosterone
Mhm.
in any place where men are, but in any place where women are, I assume it's other layers of, as they say, it can sometimes be more fights.
Mhm.
And I have a grandmother that worked in corrections in Cincinnati. Rest in peace, Granny,
Mhm.
for 35 years.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And tiny as all get up, but the toughest person on earth. It takes a different type of disposition because you're looking at people sometimes experience some of the most, for lack of a better term, they going through some things that they never thought they'd go through.
Mhm.
And if you can normalize that situation, that means that they've really always been going through some stuff.
Mhm.
So what prepared you for something like that?
Well, first, let me say this. Corrections was not something that I had always thought about doing. What happened was my best friend at the time we were younger, she went to a job fair. She was looking for a job. So she brought me home the application because she had told me that she Department of Corrections was there, but she wasn't
Hmm.
interested. And I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'll try it because the job I had at the time was for Detroit Public Schools and I wanted to quit and leave it. So when she brought me the application, I filled it out, mailed it off. 2 weeks later, they contacted me. I went and took like my test, physical agility test, and after that, it was just like bam, bam, bam. I look up, I had the job. I did several weeks of training
Hmm.
up in Lansing. I drove from Detroit to Lansing Monday through Friday. I would get up at like 3:30 in the morning because it was like the winter time. It was snowing real bad, icy, and I ended up staying there for 17 years.
Wow.
The
Eh,
plan was I told myself like, oh, I'm gonna work here for 5 years. I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna do this and do that. And then I just got in there and I was working. Life was life, and I was making money. I was paying my bills. So I just ended up staying there for 17 years. But let me say this: I loved my job. I didn't like the mandates,
mhm.
and I didn't like how far the drive was. But I had a good career going for me.
Were you working? So I'm guessing over 17 years, you bounced around. What were what would you say for that person? First, let's talk about another person to work. What type of person you think will succeed and be fair working in
hmm
corrections? What do you need?
Somebody who's just strong minded, you know what I'm saying? Because the prisoners will try to talk you into everything from bringing drugs in to sleeping with them, having relationships and affairs. So you have to be a very strong person, you know what I'm saying? And you have to be a person that's very direct. Let them know from the beginning when you meet them, when you walk in the door, I'm not here for that. I'm here to make my money and go home. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? So you just have to be consistent. If you're consistent, they're going to know, like, oh, she or he is who they are, and you can't, talk them into doing something different. So strong, consistent, very direct. Have to have some type of authority. You know what I'm saying? You can't be weak, scary.
Mhm.
You can't intimidate easy, and you have to be a person that can stand your ground.
And I asked that just because, like, I went to NO
Mm-hmm.
and I'm from this neighborhood. I'm from 12th Street. So, like, the stories from the outside in,
Mm-hmm.
especially being a man, like, the toughest pressure it isn't I think what the movies portray. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's the closest thing is Ali Sadiq, comedian Ali Sadiq has a series where he um, Domino Effect, where he talks about his journey through, you know, being incarcerated for as long as he was and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
it's stuff like that that I assume as a man that it's just like always being on edge. So a person bump into you like, hey, I like your sneakers. And it's like, okay, now do this mean I gotta, do I gotta elbow him to the face now? Or, you know what I'm saying? Or do I not? Somebody bump into you, it's like, okay, do I gotta immediately fight this person? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's that level of instability because it's just that much energy there and that frustration of like, and then just the other stuff, I may have an out date,
Mm-hmm.
meaning like I may be getting out of incarceration. I don't know, let's just say I get an out date for 6 months from now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other person just found out, okay,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be in here for another 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, then they walk up to you and be like, the guy that going to be in here for another 20 years be like, all right, so what happened?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, damn, do I tell them the truth or do I lie? I don't know. Is this a
Yeah.
dangerous situation?
Well,
Is this
you
not a
know
dangerous
what?
situation? And I assume like that those mental gymnastics is what keeps a lot of like my friends and people
Mm.
just in a state of you just always on edge.
So here's the thing about that. You might as well tell them because they're gonna find out anyway. There's no secrets in prison.
Yeah.
There's no secrets. So if you go to a parole board hearing and they tell you you're going home, and then I go to one the same day and they say we're flopping you, you probably gonna know my business before I even get back to the compound.
And then that's
Before I
the
even get back
other.
to the compound, it don't even matter. Like, because guess what? Another prisoner has already overheard it for
Mhm.
whatever reason. They didn't send it back. They didn't tell who they know. Like,
Yeah.
hey, go tell so and so. So there's no point in lying.
And that right there is the other layer of all of this stuff. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Mhm.
The other layer into this.
Mhm.
Um, so with that,
Mhm.
um, you're seeing people as you talked about that, like in vulnerable positions.
Yes.
How did you, as you said, you're strong and you're direct, but
Yeah.
how do you not, as I think like certain careers
Yeah.
could get that on you, as they say.
Mhm.
How did you like keep that off you so it's not seeping into your psyche of that energy?
So I think after working there for so long, you just get used to it. You become unfazed and you become unbothered. But you're still human though, so you do have some feelings. So you do take some of it in. But at the end of the day, I think for me, just being who I am, I just always still at the end of the day treated them like human beings, regardless of what it was. I may have just watched you on the news right before you came and you killed 15 people. But when you came there, I would tell you, if I was your officer, as long as you respect me, I'm gonna give you the same respect that you give me. If you don't respect me, then we got a whole other problem. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? And I would also explain to them, and it may sound bad, but it's just the truth. You can't win. So let's say you're a prisoner in there and you decide you want to give me a hard time. You're the one that's trying to get out and go home. If I write these tickets on you and I keep sending you to SEG, that 1 to 15 you got, you gonna end up doing them
The
15
15.
years.
Yeah.
So why come in here and give me a hard time? Especially if we ain't had no beef from the streets. You don't know me, I don't know you. You coming to do your time, I'm coming to do a job. I'm here to enforce the rules and regulations and the policies. You already know that, and you're here to follow them. You know what I'm saying? If you're going through something, then you need to talk to me. A lot of times I would listen, you know what I'm saying? Give them my best advice if I could,
Mhm.
things like that. I try not to make it too hard for them. They knew what I liked, what I didn't like. They knew that I liked them to get up in the morning, do what you're supposed to do, make your beds, clean your room. You know what I'm saying? You go in the day room, have a seat, chill, watch TV. Um, if there was some problems between them and another prisoner, I might even try to talk to them about it, see how I can get them to solve it without wanting to become violent. You know what I'm saying?
And and this plays out where now you're reading more
Mhm.
when you get a night shift.
Mhm.
What are you reading at that time? What are you picking up and what are you pouring into? You mentioned the urban novels.
Yeah. So at that time, I was reading a lot of the urban novels
Mhm.
about just about a little bit everything, a lot of hood stuff,
Mhm.
different things like that. So,
What do you think about the hood novels and fiction connected you to it?
mm, I think just some of it being relatable, and I would say more so the relatable things for me in those hood books was probably the relationships between the men and the women in the book. It was never the drugs or different thing like that I was reading about because I wasn't raised like that.
Mhm.
But just relationships. I've always been a relationship person, whether it's friendships, family ships, you know, my husband or whatever like that. But not a lot. Not like I don't keep a real huge circle around me. The few that I do keep around me, I'm just very tight with them.
And that's kind of even like in 50 Cent's Power as people was like, why don't you like this so much? I'm like, this is a soap opera
Mm,
with the geist of drugs being inside it. So it's almost like, and a lot of the dramas can be like that.
mhm,
Like it's a love story from like a street
mhm.
lens, a lot of it,
A street perspective.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
But they got to do that to give the people what they want because at the end of the day, people like drama. You know what I'm saying? So, not everybody, but people like drama. You got to give them something. So, if you just give this great love story and it's so sad, let's say you write this movie about a great love story between a man and a woman and they just have this great life of love. A lot of women can't relate to that.
that's interesting that you speak to that as I was just having another conversation about Lord knows he's conversation about he's on everybody's topic about Sean Combs or Puffy or Diddy
Mhm.
and and the talent that he offered
Mhm.
uh really especially manifests in Mary J. Blige
Mhm.
and less in like people say, oh, he always took songs or whatever, but to me he took a woman like it was the look, it was the feel. It's like he created like at the same time, and I don't know your age. I'm 41, but I nerd out in like media and ideas and
Mhm.
imagery, and hence my marketing firm. So, and this was even when I was a child, like, and I reflect on things. So at the time, you have Uptown Records, which launches Mary J. Blige's career,
Mhm.
at at a on a level with what LaFace was with L.A. Reid and Babyface.
Mhm.
And L.A. Reid and Babyface are like more like a continuation from Motown and like a form of elegance and Tony Braxton and they had TLC and things like that, but it
Yeah.
still was like a cut of that. And Uptown kind of hit new with the New Jack Swing era, but then you create this Mary J. Blige character,
Mhm.
and it's not just her songs; it was
Mhm.
the clothing, it
Yeah.
was the taking the hip hop beats,
Very
it was
relatable.
the essence
Mhm.
of what it was. Like even a song like "You Remind Me,"
Mhm.
it like Tony Braxton to me is a great vocalist, but
Mhm.
Tony Braxton under the guise of how she was packaged
Mhm.
singing a song like "You Remind Me" or "Reminisce," it's just not gonna have a connection where it's
Yeah.
like people are relating beyond the music. People are almost like identifying and become a personification, meaning
Mhm.
like I am Mary.
Mhm.
You listen to Tony like she can sing,
Yeah.
but people
Yep.
listen to Mary J. Blige like no, that is me.
Mhm.
And a lot of her songs, as people will say, man, it's so traumatic. But you listen to like over the arc of what her career is,
Mhm.
as you say, is so much more relatable
Yeah.
through like a real love.
Mhm.
And I mean, at the time, she's with Casey Haley when we
Going
know it.
through it, baby. Going through it. And a lot of her music that she made was like heartbreak music. You know what I'm saying? Things that she was going through. And it was so successful because so many women could relate to getting their heart broke. Still to this day.
And and it's so interesting
Mhm.
that it's love stories
Mhm.
through a guise of heart being broken
Mhm.
and then coming back together, and
Mhm.
sometimes ending like right there where it's like you kind of don't know where it's gonna go. You
Yep.
kind of come back together,
Mhm.
but you don't. Even like
Mhm.
with like Love Jones, we
Mhm.
don't know what happens because then it could be like I should have got back on that train and dipped. You know what I'm saying? But it's the idea of like almost in that same sense of a thriller, that scary movie of like, all right, we're gonna leave you with the cliffhanger of your imagination can make up what it could be.
Yeah. Mhm.
So that leads to some of your stories,
Mhm.
and now into miniseries and so much more. But let's
Mhm.
start with story number one.
Okay.
How, when you create the characters
Mhm.
and bring it into life, how
Mhm.
much are you thinking of people you know and things you've seen?
Mhm.
Or are you thinking more so this is what I think would capture the audience? Kind of like as like a Diddy is crafting who Mary J is. And I'm not
Mhm.
saying she's not who she is, but it still is like, are these stories people you know, things you've
Mhm.
seen, or is this more so like an alignment of I think this will connect with people?
So with Deceitful Passions, the story of the infidelity and the wife and the husband and just the heartbreak she was experiencing and just the different things that was going on, that came from just reality
Mm,
of my life, my friends' lives, things like that. But the other stuff that was made up, like, the shooting and the killing and stuff like
mm,
that. None of that happened. I didn't know, things like that. But,
mm,
like I said, those were made up parts to just kind of give people what they want, make it interesting and stuff like that. Because although that was not the lifestyle that I was experiencing, there were actual people that were experiencing that type, the street lifestyle. You know what I'm saying?
mm.
So you just mix a little bit with a little bit. You mix a little bit of fake with a little bit of reality,
Mm.
and that's how I came up with Deceitful Passions.
What do you think? What do you think connects like art
Mhm.
where you're watching it? Hence, shout out Bryce, Artifact, where
Mhm.
you're watching something like that, and it's so real and rich,
Mhm.
and it's almost like a mirror to maybe something you're experiencing
Mhm.
that has a person go in further versus saying like I can't watch this because I feel like I'm watching my own life.
I think they just want to know how it ends. They're curious. They want to know how it ends, and then sometimes, believe it or not, people are watching it to find answers to their own problems.
Expand on that.
They're trying to figure out, like, if they're watching a movie and a woman is going through things with her husband, boyfriend, or whatever it is, and they may be going through something similar, they want to see how she deals with it. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, does she leave? Does she stay? Does she feel stupid if she stays? Does what the possible outcome could be of whatever choice she makes. So then they take a little bit away from that. Some people do, not everybody, but they'll take a little bit away from that movie and be like, okay, I just watched a film. She was going through what I'm going through, and she did it this way. I've been doing it this way. Maybe let me try that way and see if it works.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
So the response that you get first, let's go to women
Mm-hmm.
in your films.
Yeah.
Just knowing that you've been a person that's poured into and appreciated love stories for so long.
Mm-hmm.
What's the usual response you get from a lot of women?
So from Deceitful Passions, there was actually a lot of women in my inbox like, oh my God, this movie reminded me so much of me. I'm going through this right now, or I've been through this, or, it was just very, very relatable. And my response was like, I'm so sorry that you experienced that because that's hurtful. You know what I'm saying? Deceitful Passions, when I wrote it, was coming from a place of hurt from me
Mm.
because I had been hurt. I had been through some things, was going through some things at the time. So I knew how I felt about it. So for other women to reach out and say they were experiencing the same thing, I was just like, dang, I hope it ends and doesn't go bad. I hope it goes well for you. You make a good decision for you.
So from men, what is men's response?
Um, you know what? Men don't really, the few that talk to me about it, they just was like, man, that movie was crazy.
Mm.
Oh boy, it was something else. But at the end of the day, they didn't say too much because a lot of those men were the men that I wrote about.
Mm.
They were vetoes. You know what I'm saying? They were doing those same things. So they didn't want to really comment on it or go into a conversation about it with me because at the end of the day, a lot of men just don't like to admit that, you know, they doing a lot of grimy things, to their family or to their woman or anything like that. So
Mm.
yeah, they just kind of be like, oh, the movie crazy, that's a wild old boy, a wild boy,
Mm.
or something like that.
Okay. And now I guess I want to talk about just that whole concept. If you're going through something, as they
Mm-hmm.
say, speaking it out and writing it out.
Mm-hmm.
Has have you been a person to like write out and process and help heal most of your life, or is this something you kind of got into in creating these stories?
I've always, since I was younger, writing has always been a safe space for me, a healing space for me. Um, I would even do things like if there was something I wanted to say to you, but I just didn't say it,
Mm-hmm.
I would journal it. I would write it. I would look back on it later. Um, if it was something I was going through, and then later on I healed and I was past that, but I had written about it, I would read it and be like, man, I came from this to that. So writing for me has always been like a safe space and just a form of healing for me to be able to get my feelings out.
Okay. Okay. And I really now I guess want to get into like you book industry
Mm-hmm.
too. So you go from something that's creative
Mm-hmm.
and now it becomes a business.
Mm-hmm.
Um and you've worked full career and everything like that, but now
Mm-hmm.
you're venturing into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
What gives you the I don't even want to say courage, but
Mm-hmm.
where's the risk, as they say, entrepreneurs are risk takers.
Yeah.
Where does that risk come from saying, okay, I want to do the book first. Let's just go to book
Mm-hmm.
and I can do this.
Mm-hmm. So with the book, it was never really a risk because I was still at my job. I was still working, so I still was getting my Blue Cross Blue Shield, still getting my annual leave, my paycheck, things like that. I just wrote it while I was working and self-published it and did it that way. But the risk came when I decided to walk away from corrections after 17 years and going to film full time. That was the big risk for me.
Okay. All right. So that.
Mhm.
So after one film, you're like, okay, this is what I really want to do. What
Yeah.
was the decision making mechanism of like, just because entrepreneurship, it takes a propensity of crazy. Everybody looks at you like, what you about to do?
Yeah.
I'm saying,
Yes.
I'm sure so many of the stakeholders in your life, and I'm big. I always talk about you got stakeholders. Now
Mhm.
you can choose to listen or not, and that could
Mhm.
be definitely your husband,
Mhm.
um, other family members, friends, people you've worked with before, and
Mm.
maybe the people you're working on your business with.
Mhm.
That's like, hey, you sure you want to do that?
Yeah. So I had a couple of friends that I talked to, like, when I was making my decision to quit, I talked to a couple of my friends, and one in particular, I just remember her saying, like, "You gonna leave this good job? Don't leave this job, blah blah blah." And I just wasn't trying to hear that, so it went in one ear and out the other. You know what I'm saying? But I think the deciding factor for me was just I talked to God about it. You know what I'm saying? And He was showing me that in a way, like, don't worry about the money because it's still gonna be rolling in. So that was one of the things I had to see first. That money was still gonna be rolling in from these movies. I didn't want to quit and then they're not making any money. I did talk to my husband about it. He was like, "Quit, do your thing." But I still was very skeptical with that because I have always been such an independent and strong person, and I never wanted to just fully depend on a man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like asking for anything more than once, so I like to have my own. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the talk. I ain't gonna say think. I know it was the talk that my dad gave me when I talked to
Interesting.
my daddy about it. My daddy was like, "Baby, quit that job, do your thing." He was like, "And if push come to shove and you need to, you smart, you'll get another job. Go
Mm.
back to work." He said, "But try it out and see how it works for you." And that was just like that helped me stand on 10 toes, you know.
So, as a person that writes characters in
Mhm.
movies, and the advice your father gave you, I'm sure is advice you could have heard from many other people.
Mhm.
What was it about your dad pouring that into you that connected like that?
Cuz I respect my dad and that's my daddy. You know what I'm saying? Like um I don't know, it was just like my dad cuz I felt like if I fell on my face, he would be a person that I could call to help me. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to I could talk to 10 other people over here who would tell me to quit, but if things didn't go right, I got in a bind, none of them could help me. You
Mm.
know what I'm saying? Or wouldn't help me or do anything. Cause you a lot of people that give you advice from the place they are in their life. You know what I'm saying? Some people may be scared, some may not, but you don't have a lot of people you can always fall back on. You know what I'm saying?
So, from those years in corrections, you
Mhm.
enter a whole nother world and
Mhm.
universe of the industry that's grown here and blossomed
Mhm.
into a community. What's it been like entering the film community in Detroit?
It's been a little crazy, but nothing too bad. I really just do my thing. I stay out the way,
Hmm.
make my movies, and speak to everybody, say hello, be cordial, and go back in my house.
Okay.
And it works for me. It works for me.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. As far as like executive production,
Mhm.
so that's putting up the bank to
Yeah.
make everything happen if people don't know.
Mhm.
Um, that I'm sure starts from like you started probably tapping into some
Yeah,
savings.
that was me. Yeah, that was me. That was exactly what I did
Hmm.
when I did Deceitful Passions.
Hmm.
I went into my 401k and
Hmm.
things like that. I worked overtime, stopped getting my nails done here. Like I made a lot of sacrifices to get
Hmm.
it done.
Yeah.
And when I looked up, I got it done.
Yeah.
It was rough. It was rough, baby. But listen, if it wasn't meant to happen, it wouldn't happen.
And then also in this industry of anything with entertainment also comes back to distribution, the
Mm-hmm.
distribution channels, how that works, how those things pay out. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people involved in processes like this. Now, being
Mm-hmm.
an executive producer, you're further up the get paid ladder.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But it's tougher because the further up you move to, like, the sooner you get paid, the more you got to put in.
Yes. And a lot of people don't get that. I think they just think you making money and you get to sit on it. No, you gotta invest it right back into your next project. You, as an executive producer, you're writing the checks. You paying everybody. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of money that goes out, just like it is. It may be a lot of money that come in, and then it may not be. There's some filmmakers who don't make a lot of money. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? But they do it. They get it done. They love to do it. They try to make another one. They may get people to invest. They do GoFundMe's, all type of stuff, but which I've never done any of them. I just always pay out of my pocket, And so that's one of the things that I do when the money comes in. I take that money that comes in and I invest in other projects that I want to do.
And do you think that you're managing so many different types of people,
Mm-hmm.
and these types of people are artists for the most part?
Mm-hmm.
Because a camera person is an artist, a
Mm-hmm.
cinematographer is an artist,
Mm-hmm.
actors are certainly, like, we're very
Yes.
familiar with the I guess the known reputation that actors can be divas and things like that. But it's not just actors; it could be even the
Mm-hmm.
craft services people,
Yeah.
meaning like the people that give food and everything. And
Yes.
you're managing all these personalities.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that some of that experience from, or I'm putting this on you,
Mm-hmm.
from your experience in corrections dealing with so many personalities has
Mm-hmm.
helped in this role?
Tremendously.
Hmm.
Tremendously. Just dealing with a lot of personalities, a lot of attitudes and different things like that. But also working there for so long, just giving me more just being more direct, being more, solid, standing on what I say, meaning business. You know what I'm saying? I had some great supervisors there who I watched, learned how they moved, how they did things, how they ran their shift, you know what I'm saying? How they talked to people, how they treated us, how it made us feel as correction officers. So a lot of that, yeah, shout out to Lieutenant Malloy over there at Women's Huron Valley and so many others, but I just learned a lot from them. And so I think for me, I take that when I'm dealing with other people and just my attitude in general and my demeanor and the things that I learned from corrections, it helps me deal with everybody.
I definitely can imagine, because a lot of what people don't know is in this realm of, I guess, media entertainment, it's not, I guess, nothing is ever cookie cutter, quote unquote, but it's
Yeah.
not like a lot of other jobs where, or industries, in the sense of you do this, then this happens, and that happens, and this happens.
Hmm.
It can be someone doing something in so many ways different than how you do it, but it's
Hmm.
so successful for them. Then
Yes.
you apply that method to what you're doing,
Hmm.
and nothing ever works. So, like, for instance, the classic thing I had to learn early that my dad just taught me, just in other business things, like, and it's tougher in this industry, but the hangout culture,
Hmm.
it's very prevalent in any form of entertainment. Meaning,
Hmm.
like, hey, we gonna meet here, and then meet me at the bar here, and then meet me over here, and then meet me over here. I'm a
Hmm.
person that likes to do business in meetings, and I can meet you at I can meet you out at night. But
Hmm.
as I've grown older, it's like, nah. If we talking business, we gonna talk business here in these terms. So I
Hmm.
miss out on a lot of other
You
opportunities
don't you
because
don't miss out.
I'm not gonna meet you at the nightclub
Yeah,
to
I don't
talk
do that
business per
either.
se.
I don't do
I
that
want to talk
either.
business in a business setting where it's
Hmm.
not a bunch of music going on and a bunch of other people around. Now I can meet you in that setting, but if we're
Hmm.
gonna talk business, then we need to talk business in a business setting,
Yeah.
and that's me. But I do think that just over time, because certain people, that's
How
their
they
get
do.
now,
Yeah.
but staying out till 4 in the morning,
Hmm.
taking shots with
Um,
somebody, it's like,
that's never been me,
no.
never. And I don't really mix business with pleasure. Now, I can speak, I can talk, I can be hospitable. I can do a lot of things, but I just don't, there's so much that goes on here in the film community. There's so many events, there's so many birthdays, there's so many hangout spots and people I don't do it. You
Yeah.
know. Um I think too, I just don't want to sometimes when I work with you, I don't want to change your perspective or your level of respect for me. You know what I'm saying? I will attend some events, certain events. I will come out for a minute. Me and my husband will go out, hey, how y'all doing? I'm back in the house. And I'm definitely not out till 4 o'clock in the morning.
my my dad always said the term is the dynamics of the relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
it may not even necessarily be like, something so extreme, but the
Yeah.
dynamics of the relationship change when, like, for instance, I'm gonna just give you all a scenario that could happen from set or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. If I'm professional and you're professional, and
Mm-hmm.
we're working on a film project, and I don't know, our lighting tech happens to be there too.
Mm-hmm.
And then we walk out and we see our lighting tech till 3 in the morning and talking to some girl, or she's talking to some guy, or I mean, nowadays it could be a guy talking to a guy or a girl talking to
Mm-hmm.
a girl, whatever. We see that they're in like a, you know, getting towards that zone and
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And then we got to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Now that person comes 20 minutes late.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh man, but you know, I was out. It's an incepted idea that I already have an understanding
Mm-hmm.
for the 20-minute
Yeah, I
lateness
ain't trying
that
to hear
they're gonna
that.
have. And
Yeah.
in my mind, it's like I can't share that because
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna impact everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Because you show up 20 minutes late, that's gonna make shooting start 20 minutes, possibly 30 minutes later.
Yep.
And then everybody else is now like, oh well, since he can be 20 minutes late, I guess I
Yes.
can be 20
Yep.
minutes late. And
Mm-hmm.
it's all going into the dominoes, and
Mm-hmm.
then you on set saying, yeah, I knew he'd be here, but he was seeing me out, and him and
Mm-hmm.
Renika knew that I was, you know, man, I've
Mm-hmm.
been waiting on that for
And
forever.
that's exactly what it would
And
turn
it
into.
permeates throughout the set.
Mm-hmm.
Now that it's like, oh well, if they was all hanging out, because that's how people will hear it,
Yes.
as opposed to, oh, we just happen to just walk by the lighting tech,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
at night.
Yeah.
That's to me the dynamics of like management
You're
and
100%
the
correct.
personalities and the egos.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like I gotta be so stoic and act like I can never say anything to you, but it needs to
Exactly.
be from the dynamics of we're doing business, we're doing business. If
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be more casual, we can be more casual. But let's
Mm-hmm.
finish this business first,
Yep.
because at the end of the day, your business, the lighting tech, they get
Mm-hmm.
their lights set up. That's cool. They're not worried that on Saturday when everybody got to get paid out, the pressure ain't on the lighting tech to pay everybody, and everything didn't get finished. And now
Yeah.
editing starts later,
Mm-hmm.
and the editing person's like, "Oh, I got to go to LA next week." So now
Mm-hmm.
everything's kicked back a week,
Mm-hmm.
and this is gonna hit my bottom line
Yep.
and hit deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
And hit everything where the whole you know what I'm saying, it's like the house of cards starts falling on each other,
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
and they're not seeing it like that. They're just seeing it like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just do it 20 minutes later.
Yeah, and it's
It's
not a
no
big
offense
deal.
to them, but it
You
becomes
know,
a big deal.
and even with that, let's say me and you are doing a film together.
Yeah.
You're very professional. I'm very professional. We have a great work rapport, right?
Yeah.
And then we do hang out. We go have drinks together.
Yep.
And it becomes more casual, laid back, cool.
Yeah.
Now you're in the space like, oh, we cool, we friends.
Yeah.
So if I do something stupid or if I do whatever, she ain't gonna say nothing because we cool.
Yeah.
Now, when I, check you about it or when I confront you about it or however, now you got an issue with me.
Yeah.
Because you like, I mean, I thought we was cool. We was no, we ain't that cool. Because now you're interfering with my business and what I got going on. And just what you said, so many things could, kind of domino effect from that,
Mhm.
from you, whatever the case might be. So I just kind of like to keep it professional. Even if I really like you a lot and it's your birthday and you invite me out and I can't make it, I might send you a edible arrangement, or if you're a female and I like you and we cool, I might send you a flower, happy birthday.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I just don't want to be in a club with you. I
Yeah.
don't want to be standing on the tables with you. I don't want to be drunk with you. That's not no, that ain't what I want to
That's not
do.
how we gonna do business.
I have friends for that.
Yeah.
Now if it turns into a friendship, sometimes that happens. You know what I'm saying? But I like my life very private and very small.
Yeah. And then the other layer too becomes, now when you become a friend, every project I work on, you're gonna be like, well, I ain't on that project.
Yes,
And
yeah,
that
you
can become a
expect to be,
layer too. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like,
mhm.
you're not the right person
For this, yeah.
And it's like, but I can become that. And it's like, I don't want you hitting your learning curve on my
Mhm. Yeah,
on what I'm doing as a, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
it's a lot of like
It's a lot that goes
layers to
into
this
it.
stuff that I think certain people understand when you kind of sit in that executive production seat
Mhm.
that others wouldn't.
Yeah.
And it becomes what, I don't know if I believe that whole quote unquote lonely at the top, but
Mhm.
it's not going to be some of the same understandings amongst everybody, because everybody has different roles and different tasks, and
Mhm.
everybody's extremely important, but those more responsible to the
Yes.
whole thing play a different role in it all,
Yeah.
you know? So let's talk about the new project.
Okay.
What's happening?
Everything is happening. I am loving it. It's called The Stranger in Our House. It is a mini series. It's 5 episodes. The people are loving it. It's playing right now, streaming on Tubi. They're asking for a second season, and I'm excited to give it to them. So I've already started writing a second season, and I'm looking forward to start filming maybe very late winter
Okay.
or very very early
Spring.
next year. Nope, the
Oh.
very in the winter 2025.
Okay. So you're
I'm
either
ready to
gonna
get
do
this
it
show
like
on the
winter,
road.
winter. So it's like I
Yeah,
consider winter. Okay. So
yeah,
it's gonna be either December or January. That's
yeah,
what you
something
talking.
like that. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what
Okay.
I'm looking
I'm
forward to
with it.
right now. But it is doing so well, and I'm just so grateful. You know, what I'm saying that it was
Congratulations.
received well. Thank you because it's a different concept. And again, we talked about how people like the drama. They like the shoot 'em up bang bangs. They like the a lot of sex and different things like that. And this one is kind of different because it's about a black serial killer,
Mm.
and it doesn't have all that. It has just a little bit of stuff, but it's not your average I would say your average everyday watch of drama, you know what I'm saying? Like that. So it's just totally some I wanted to give people something different from the
So
city.
so that sounds a little thriller. I was planning on watching it like binging it like this weekend. I got some
You
time.
should, you
And
should. Thank you.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The stories stack up. I like it, and you're gonna get a real take once I check it.
Oh, thank
Um,
you. I appreciate that.
and and within like the films,
Mhm.
and now into the miniseries,
Mhm.
um, that connection back to like I'm big in stories too. Characters. How do you
Mhm.
come up with the names and the arcs and stuff
So
like that?
most of the time the names are just from people that I know,
Okay,
people in my life. It could be my
okay,
family, my friends. I'm sitting here doing this interview with you. I might like your name and you look
okay.
up and
Yeah,
they were
I'll
like,
give you a
wait a
card in
minute.
one of your
Yeah.
films. It's like, oh, look at him
Yeah.
messing up the name.
Yeah. Yeah, but normally the names are pulled from either people that I know or they're pulled from like names that I like,
Okay.
you know.
And then the background because
Mhm.
also like and that's the other thing I like a lot about the story of it too, like a
Mhm.
person's background. Because this is a lot of y'all don't know this, but
Mhm.
for every character in a movie, even if it's like a short stint, usually you get like a background and description that helps actors like ground themselves into
Yes.
who that character is. So
Mhm.
stuff that may not make the film, it's like, okay, they worked at Burger King's when they were
Yeah.
10 and stuff
Yeah.
like that. How do you go about making the backgrounds for the characters too?
Um, I just really think about it. The one thing that I don't want to do is always portray black people as drug dealers
Mm,
or things like that. I want us to be nurses. I want us to be
yeah,
doctors. I want us to own businesses. So when I do my films, I try to make sure that we're living a good life because we don't all come from the streets. We don't all sell drugs. We don't all and they have this stereotype about black people. So I try to make us look good.
definitely.
Hmm.
And also, I mean, you were in corrections for so long. Like I believe it's entertainment with the streets, even
Hmm.
my favorite art form of hip hop. Then it's like a ethic that exists in street life
Hmm.
that a lot of people are like now seeing some of what they thought was the ethic of like not snitching and stuff like that, like with this
Hmm.
whole young thug case. And it's
Hmm.
like you think that this don't
I'm not. I'm
happen
not doing 50
forever,
years for nobody. I'm sorry.
but most
I'm not a. Let me say this.
mm,
I'm not a snitch type of person. I'm more of a mind my business type of person. If it doesn't have anything to do with me, I'm not getting in it. I'm not
yeah,
speaking on it. I don't care about it.
hmm,
Keep it over there. But if you were doing some mess and you brought it around
Tubi,
me and brought it to me and you knew that you weren't supposed to be doing it and they about to take your butt to jail, and if I don't tell the truth, I'm about to be taken away from my family, my children who need me,
yeah.
my husband, my parents, and all of that, and do this time just to be loyal to you and not snitch. Oh, you're going to jail.
I
You're going to
believe
jail.
I believe it's so prevalent of our justice system just from knowing so many attorneys.
Hmm.
our justice system would not work if there weren't informants.
Yeah, I'm not losing my
So
and I'm not gonna even be sneaky. Listen, I'm gonna tell you.
yeah,
If you come around me and you doing something you don't have no business doing, and you know you could put me at risk or my family at risk or my children or anything, I'm going to first tell you, go back over there with that. Don't bring that over here. You know what I'm saying?
which I guess now let me explicitly say this for
Yeah.
all the dudes that's like what are you talking about? I am saying this.
Mhm.
Like I've been explicit and had so many exhaustive debates on.
Mhm.
First off, the old lady up the street that ends up with a bullet through her window
Mhm.
telling the police what happened, that's not a snitch. A
Yeah.
snitch is a person that was complicit in whatever illegal activity was going on
Mhm.
and then was offered a deal
Mhm.
from whatever authority
Mhm.
so that they would not face a consequence.
Mhm.
Snitching is a person that has no problem with what was happening
Mhm.
and they can get a deal and broker it. A person doing this for the safety of themselves or their community and sharing what that information is with authorities is not a snitch.
And I'm gonna let you know from the jump. I'm not complicit with it at all. I don't feel good about it. Don't bring it around me. Don't do it. Because for one, I I try to be a good person. I
Mhm.
don't, I don't purposely do bad things. I don't purposely do people wrong. I don't any of that.
Yeah.
My name means a lot to me out here in these streets. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And just in general, to have a good name and a good standing and good somebody hear your name, they're happy to hear it. They like, oh, I love that person or they cool. I don't want to be involved with that. So take it somewhere else. If you don't want to go to jail, don't do it around me.
And I also want to say this too. Authorities have so long, like recently, a film I helped my good friend Dr. Yusef Bunchy Shakur
Mm-hmm.
edit and talking about the time he served in jail for a crime he did not do, though he did do other crimes. Like the institution of justice in America has for so long oppressed black people the wrong way. So I'm not in support of that either. But I am understanding of what could happen and the consequences of what it could be for people's families. So I just want to make it explicit that, like, yeah, if you're complicit in what's going on, I do believe that you should face whatever that consequence is. You do need to shut the hell up because technically the only thing you're doing is cutting a deal for yourself. That is wrong. And it is ethically wrong. But as far as ethically and morally wrong, but as far as the understanding of it, I think it happens so often that, some of the rap lyrics that y'all are listening to are nothing like what the reality is.
And a lot of times these rappers are rapping these lyrics and they will tell you they don't even live that lifestyle for real. So now
That too.
your children is listening to it, even as adults we're listening to it and
Yeah.
things like that. And then these kids get in their head that, oh, my favorite rapper, he said he dogged, women, ladies, or whatever, or he shot, or he did this, or he killed this person. And so now they're receiving it and thinking that this is really reality. When if you talk to a lot of rappers, they'll tell you they don't even let their kids listen to their music.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people they don't let their children watch certain movies, different things like that. They're raising them totally different than what they're singing and rapping and preaching to your children. But at the end of the day, it's your responsibility as a parent to let your kids know this ain't that. This ain't you can't have them believing that everything they're listening to is real. And be a stand-up quality mom and dad so that they will look up to you more than anybody else. Yeah, I look up to this person that make this song, but I love my parents. They're doing great. I respect them. You know what I'm saying? Try to have that bond and that relationship with them. And so, when you need to have those conversations with them, just randomly, if y'all washing the dishes, cleaning up the kitchen, just have small talk with your kids. You know what I'm saying? So that they will have a better understanding. Like, oh, if they watching something with they homeboy, a video or something, and they like, oh man, he got the guns and stuff. They be like, man, that ain't real. That's just stuff they got for the videos, and they probably ain't even finna go home and live like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, yeah, like I say, it definitely can get real.
Yeah.
It definitely can get real. And, I think our society itself, America's history has always been so violent
Mm-hmm.
that it's prevalent in American culture
Yeah.
itself. And then when we look at Black America and the scarcity of so many opportunities that are looked at as what successful is, our key goal here and always is around, like I say, creativity, culture, and community. And through that, we build a social capital where we can resource our own
Mm-hmm.
for our own through the chaos of everything else, which leads us to some of our last questions, the classic Detroit is different questions.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, shout out the miniseries again, where people watch it and how they connect.
Okay, so it's The Stranger in Our House. It is now available and streaming on Tubi. It's free. If you don't have Tubi, you can type it in on your computer. You can download the app on your phone. It's absolutely free on there. You can go on there and watch it. It's 5 episodes. So if you're looking for something good to watch and you want to watch something back to back to back where you don't have to keep trying to find something, it's a great thing for you. It's an interesting, great show. So I recommend you watch it and check it out.
Great. So here we go. Classic questions. Very first car, year, make, and model, year you got it.
Oh my God, my very first car I think was a Mustang, it was a like an old school gosh. Um I just know it had like gold rims and it was a stick and
Okay.
yeah, but
You know how to drive a
no, so that's what I was
manual?
gonna say. My dad got it for me, and he was gonna teach me, and I was gonna learn. But what happened was when he brought it home, because I think he got it from down in Georgia. When he got it home, and my mom saw how souped up it was with the rims and the sounds and everything, she was like, "No, somebody gonna hurt her. She don't need this car." So they took it away from me. I was devastated, and I think I ended up getting a gold Honda Accord, like immediately after.
Okay. All right. What was the name?
Of my car,
Yep.
and I just the car.
Okay.
That's but I just remember riding it a lot, listening to Mary J. Blige.
Okay. Do you remember the first place you went when you got it?
Probably over to my aunt's house,
Okay.
over there on Somerset to probably show my cousins and
So
stuff
your
like
husband was
that.
like, she wanted to see me.
He probably was. He probably was with his arrogant stuff. He probably was. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. You're the DJ at the end of the fireworks,
Mhm.
Woodward and Jefferson. You get to
Mhm.
play one song. What song you playing?
Oh my God. It's the end of the night and I want people to go home.
Well, they can stay. They can go home. It's up to you.
I don't know. I just know that it would be a song to probably bring them down from the night that they've had, maybe calm them down a little bit because they've been having such a great time. Because I'm such an R&B music.
What would you play?
No, I don't know. I have no clue. Whatever just popped in my head at that time.
Okay. All right. And you could rename Woodward after one Detroiter. Who would it be and why?
I would name it after Mia Ray.
Why?
Just because I've never met her, but I love her hustle. I love her story. I love the underdog story about her, just starting her business, some of the things that she went through. I can relate and just how well she's doing right now. I love that for her. I love to go on Instagram and watch her lives, her interviews. I just like to hear her talk and see. I'm just so super proud of her. And I think she's going to just get even bigger and greater. So I definitely would say I would call it Mia Ray Road.
That's what's up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Much appreciated. And shout out T-Barb.
Shout out to my friend T-Barb. Thank you for making this happen. That's my baby. Actually, we finna go to the Lions game tonight.
Okay. All right. Have some fun. Peace.
Detroit is Different is where you get information, artistry, history, music, and even comedy. Detroit is Different, a home for the culture of Detroit. Visit online at DetroitisDifferent.com today.